By the time I was 21, I had a lot of my fun. Everyone's going to be doing the same thing. I want to be at a different level to where they're at, and dove myself into real estate to try it out. I instantly fell in love with it. I instantly fell in love with the grind, the relationships that I can build from it, and just the value, and it's just a rewarding job.
Welcome, Eric.
How you doing, Andy?
Good. I'm super excited to have you on the pod here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so a little introduction. It's Eric Alsides with the Alsides Real Estate Team and eXp Realty.
Yes, sir.
Right. So hailing out of, actually, I don't even know you technically hail out of in today's
Woodbury
world.
I live in White Bear Lake now. Grew up in Woodbury my whole life. Moved out to White Bear in 2015 and love it out there. So
sweet.
Most of my business is on this side of town.
So your family went from the Woodbury. Everybody went to White Bear Lake together, kind of.
Yep. Yeah. Dragged all my friends with me too.
Super cool. So, man, let's kind of dig in. So let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
And so you grew up here, Woodbury, right?
Yep.
And you grew up in a real estate family. You're a realtor now, head of a real estate team. But you grew up in the real estate grind because both of your parents were realtors, right?
Yep. I think in total 7 people are licensed in my family.
That's right. I forget that all of your
got Lori, Jackie, Desiree was licensed for a while, Dustin, Destiny. So big family business.
So it's really like the layer above you, right? Like that whole group. And then now the next layer, you and your brother are together now too.
Yep. So my brother's been with me for just over a year, probably about a year and a half now, and he's starting to absolutely crush it. And it's been a pleasure working with him and my mom, and dragged my mom back in the business too, and said, hey, she's has so many great tools and stuff. And I was like, why not get back into the business? I can take care of all the technology that you just absolutely hate, and you can do the fun part.
Yeah, she's great at the relationships, and she was a killer realtor too. Was like
for a long time.
In her heyday, she was like top dog.
Yeah.
She, I remember, didn't she sign like something? What was like when she opened a real estate development? And how many deals did she sign in a couple of days?
She closed 21 deals in one day.
It's unbelievable.
So, obviously being around it my whole entire life, all I heard, going to baseball games, going to basketball games. Both my parents always on the phone, constantly. I'm just always hearing different types of things. So it became it was definitely a natural thing once I got into it. But I've definitely always been in the sales. Sales has always been something for me. I've always been kind of that hustler grinder. Even when I was in high school and college, used to sell shoes. I had a crazy collection of over 500 shoes and was always selling them.
500 shoes? Do you still have that now?
No, I only probably have 120.
You have 120 shoes? Do you have a room dedicated to your shoe?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I have 3 extra bedrooms. Yeah. All the closets are.
I didn't okay. So let's unpack this just real quick. The collector shoes?
Yeah.
So like investment shoes?
Foamposites, Jordans.
We're not going to give his address, but what is your premium shoe? What's the nicest shoe that you have?
Yeezy Plat 2.
A Yeezy Plat. What would that go for?
I sold one pair about 6-7 years ago for $2,800. They go for about $4,200 now.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So this guy can hustle. Seeing that. That's so cool.
I didn't want to work a normal job growing up in high school and college. So that was kind of something that was super fun for me to be able to do. Make, some money on the side to keep me going through high school and college. And, and then once it was time to become an adult, real estate was the path for me.
Yeah, it's okay, grow up there.
Yep.
Time to transition.
It was super fun, and it was a passion, so it was super easy for me, and I was making more than all my friends that were working Starbucks or Target or whatever, doing that. So I enjoyed it, and I kind of everyone always used to say Eric's just a hustler, he'll get it done in one way or another, whether it's selling something. And gave real estate a try, became a passion of mine very quickly, and we kind of just shot off from there.
Yeah, so tell me about this, because I grew up in a normal kind of blue collar working class family. We didn't always have a lot of money. So you know, like some of my personal motivation is like tangible things, and like just because I didn't get to have some of that when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like you kind of grew up in an affluent family.
Yeah.
And you still like to hustle and grind. Like it wasn't, so just because you had a lot of nice stuff, like I even think of like your dad had 9/11 and like, you know, like they had nice stuff, but that didn't like ruin your motivation. For some people, like that can kind of crush them, it seems like. And then they're like, oh, you know, we always had this nice stuff. Maybe your parents didn't spoil you. Like, tell me about that.
I think the best way to explain it is my parents definitely instilled like the work ethic with it. Is that, you know, when I was young, yeah, they'd spoil me on, you know, newest bat or the nicest cleats or whatever to that extent. But once it become an adult, it wasn't like, oh, this is going to be handed to you type thing. So from early on, they were like, you know, you got to work, you got to do this, you got to do that. Like, once I got to 15, 16 years old, it's like, hey, like if you want this nice stuff, like you got to work for it. You want the new bat now that you're in high school, like go to work. So, you know, I feel like they helped prepare me to, you know, have that motivation and have the drive. And for me, it was like, once you have nice things and you've seen what nice is, it's hard to want to give that up. Right. So for me, it was like once I saw that, I knew that I had to work for it and I didn't want to give any of that stuff up. So I wanted to have all those nice things as an adult because my parents aren't just handing out free money as an adult type stuff. So I feel like, you know, growing up in that, for some people, their parents spoil them for an extended period of time into their adult life. And for me, that was kind of where I think they did a great job on saying like, no, like, we have these great things because of hard work. And
we're rich. You're not rich.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Shaquille O'Neal says the same thing. He's like, I'm rich. My kids aren't rich. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So it's that's kind of the thing that made me is I was like, you know, I want these nice things. I want to have all this and I'm not, you know, I have all the tools and to be able to make it happen, it's just, or who's going to make it happen rather than feeling like, oh, I'm just going to be given it. I got to work for it.
Grew up in the real estate game, and then what was the fork in the road for you where all of a sudden it's like, okay, I was going this direction, maybe I needed to start going in this direction?
So for me, you know, I was definitely a troublemaker a little bit growing up through high school, had a lot of fun, partied a little bit. And so by the time I was, you know, 21, I had a lot of my fun. I'd done a lot of knucklehead things that I learned from, and finally once I got to that, you know, 21 age, I was just like, you know, I'm good. Like everyone's going to be doing the same thing. I want to be at a different level to where they're at, and dove myself into real estate to try it out. I wasn't sure if that was going to be the gig that I wanted to do. I always used to tell myself I don't want to do what my parents do. Yeah, but sure enough, I gave it a try, and it just became a passion of mine. I instantly fell in love with it. I instantly fell in love with the grind, the relationships that I can build from it, and just the value. And it's just a rewarding job. You know, you're helping people make such a impactful decision for their life, and having them appreciate it is one of the biggest things for me. Is that, you know, what job do you have that you're making that big of a value that they see it as such a amazing thing that you did, and it's rewarding for you as the person who helped them through that they are so appreciative for the work that you did for them. So that definitely gave me that extra passion and gives me that drive every day to wake up and like I can make a difference in someone's life.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So since we've known each other a while now, I've like been able to kind of see your real estate journey. Give us a quick look at what it looked like for you getting started to now. Because one thing I have noticed is that it doesn't seem like any of the real estate business was given to you either. So it's not like your mom was like, here's all these clients.
No, they're definitely eating all what they can have. So I was never given anything. My real estate journey all started working with my dad at Keller Williams. I was kind of like his inside sales agent for about 6 months back in like 2015, I think is when I started just making calls, grinding. He was just paying me $10 an hour, making all his calls on his website. And from there, I was like, okay. After I kind of learned a little bit, I was like, all right, let's get licensed. Once I got licensed, just started making calls. We'd get about 100 leads to our website a month. And I was just calling every single day. I'd make, minimum 200 calls every single day, and sold 21 homes my first year in real estate. And then kind of just decided that I have a different view of what I want my business to look like, a little bit more new school. And so from there, I decided, let's look at some other teams, some other options of where I can grow and have a little bit different of a vision of where I want to get and where I see my career going. So I met with some top teams in the area, and most of them said, Eric, we'd love to have you, but why do you need us? So that was kind of my, okay, let's start my own team. So from there, I started my own team at Edina Realty, brought on one of my buddies who had just graduated from college, and he was trying to get into medical sales and wasn't finding the right gig. And he had seen me start making some money fresh out of college. So he was like, hey, like, would you be interested? I talked to him and I was like, hey, like, I'd love for you to, I have too many leads. This is what I'm doing. I kind of did the same thing, bought a website, started paying for leads, was getting 100 leads a month. And I was like, hey man, I have about 6 months of funds for us to be able to get through this, and it's either make or break. So me and him just started calling our absolute butts off. And my first year with me and him as a team, we sold 51 homes.
Which is killer. That people don't realize. The average realtor rent, what is it? Probably 5-6 homes a year?
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
We were young. We were 22 years old at the time.
Yeah.
So
I want to ask you a couple questions about that.
Yeah.
So how are you showing the consumer that, like, hey, I'm this 22-year-old dude showing up at your home? Obviously, you were doing something that typical Asian doesn't do. Do you feel like you actually had to show even more value and be even better than someone that's maybe a little bit older and more seasoned in the industry? Like you had to go over the top to show your value?
I think more than anything, it was just working harder than the next person. For me, it was a sacrifice of 3 years of my life that I went harder than anyone else was willing to go.
Yeah, so give us an example. What does that mean for the consumer? Like what are you doing?
I was just getting more opportunities. I was getting in front of enough people, and I was showing up with, I didn't have custom suits at the time, but I, would buy a nice suit, get it tailored, and I looked the part. And that was more than anything. It's like most of the consumers don't know how much business you're doing.
Yeah.
But when I showed up, it looked like I was doing a lot of business. I mean, not at the time. Yeah. It was kind of that fake it till you make it type thing. And especially with buyers and stuff like that. And at the beginning, our price point wasn't near what my price point is now. Our average sales price, I think, was $278 when we sold 51. My average sales price last year, I think, was $646.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different outlook, different type of clientele you're working with. A lot of agents, unfortunately, don't have marketing materials, don't show up looking dressed and well-groomed or whatever that may be, that it was just easy to beat people out. Like, I'd just sit at open houses, make calls, and when I'd meet them, they thought I was maybe better than I was, but I didn't say anything that it wasn't any lying. Like, I didn't have to tell them, hey, I'm doing 1,000 homes. It was just like more like, hey, this is what I'm here to do. And I had the right marketing materials and the value proposition of what I could do.
But you got it done. I feel like that's something that's being overlooked, right? Is that you can have the fake it till you make it, but you also had to do it.
Yep.
So you had to follow up with the client, do what you say you were going to do.
Yep.
Right? When you say you were going to do it.
Yeah.
And they respond.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's been killer for that. And you've been able to grow your way up with higher end clientele too.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool. So what's the big difference so right now, if you're trying to serve someone, I know you sell a lot of houses in Wedgwood and some different communities here in Woodbury, all over the metro. But when someone isn't selling a $300,000 house, let's say they're selling like a $600,000 to $1 million home, Like, what's really important for that person that is a little bit different than someone who's selling a 350 starter home? Like, what are you doing to maximize their value?
I think maximizing their value is just providing as much expertise as you can, knowing products, knowing the difference of trim, knowing the difference of appliances, knowing the difference of layouts, floor plans, at different price points as you scale up. Anyone can sell, like I like to say, that 400 and under. If you're buying a 400 single family, you get a split level, and they're pretty much a box on a box on a box. Or you get a townhome at 250, 300. There's only so many floor plans you can fit within that type of square footage. Once you get up to, 6 to, 2, 3 million, all of a sudden those things start changing. There's different customizations that come with it. There's different type of construction process if they're going with a new build. There's different type of architecture. There's different types of elevation, all those different types of things of, okay, this one has tile, heated floors. Being able to point out different things and different value of why this community compared to the community across the street. They might have similar homes that are similar size, but it's not the same builder. And those homes might only be selling for 8 while this neighborhood's selling for 1.2. Why? And a lot of the consumers don't know that or understand it, and being able to kind of share that information is, again, a value proposition that most agents just aren't educated enough to tell them why this house is going for this and why this development is so much nicer than that development, etc. I mean, to an extent. I mean, we're not pushing anyone in either way, but why is this 1.2? Why is this 800?
Yeah, that's why I think you killer in Woodbury specifically, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have Eagle Valley.
You know every development because you grew up here too. Not only, and you grew up here in real estate. So like that's amazing to know that it's like, actually this street is better than this street.
Yeah, I mean, the best example is Wedgwood and Eagle Valley, right? There's similar sized homes in Eagle Valley and Wedgwood, but Eagle Valley sells for $200,000 to $400,000 less than what right across the street Wedgwood is selling for, because of the quality of build, because of the size lots, because of, those different things that, you had your typical Lennar or DR Horton type build over in Eagle Valley, where you had a lot more custom in Wedgwood.
Give me some examples right now of, so the real estate world has changed a lot, right? In the last 3 years. For, your industry specifically is changing.
Yep.
And then the market has, like, values are going up, but there's less sales.
Yep.
Right? So if you got a move up buyer right now that's wanting to sell their home and buy a new home, like, how can they navigate that? Because this is a common thing that I feel like I'm coming across a lot. I don't know about you, where they're selling their $400,000 home and they're going into their 600 or 700, which is like, this is like your typical East Metro move up buyer.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like, what are the challenges that you can help them overcome right now? That's like the biggest hurdles that you're seeing for them.
I think the biggest hurdles is just no one likes moving. I think, you're in your comfort zone, right? And making that move, especially when a lot of these people are on their $400,000 starter home, they're locked into 3% rate. So getting them to understand and passing them on to, a great mortgage lender who can, explain a lot of the information, I think is one of our biggest values that we have is, working with you on being able to talk our client through the financial aspect of those things, and then we can talk them through the financial aspect of, okay, this is what your house is worth. The biggest thing of our value that we provide is, okay, we're not going to sell your house as is. If you do have the money, we're going to upgrade it and get you to that point where you can make a difference of profit.
Can you give an example of that?
Yeah, so I guess best example is a member at my club over in Delwood. He had a house over here in Woodbury in Colby Lake. He asked me to come, and his wife picked a realtor. So I was his realtor that he picked, and his wife picked another realtor. We both came over there to do a market eval, and both of us came in as is. The house was worth $325 at the time. And so the other agent didn't give them any suggestions on how to maximize the profit on that house. So I gave them a checklist of all the things that they should do and what I can do to get them more money. So on their house, we put in new appliances, we redid their bathroom, put in new carpet, painted the entire house, changed out handles. We spent $30,000 on this renovation. Once they spent $30,000, I said, okay, now instead of $325, we can list at $375. So we spent 30 grand, which would be at $355. So we would have profited an extra 20 at $375. I thought it was going to most likely sell in multiples and we're going to get close to 4. Nonetheless, we ended up getting like 23 offers, I think, at the time, and we sold for $415. So I profited them an extra $70,000.
I think that's cool. Something we're doing with the move up buyers right now to offset, a lot of the times they're kind of like middle-aged families, and they're like, I just went from 2 to 3 kids or 1 to 2. House isn't working. I got a new career. Things are changing. I can afford a bigger home. The average home in America's got 200 grand in equity right now. So not everybody works out this way, but we're looking at their finances, and maybe they got the home equity line, the credit card, the boat loan, the car loan. And we're saying park 75 grand of that equity and pay off all of that debt when you move up to the new house, because it's hard to stomach, like you were saying, hey, you got 3 and now you're going to get 6.6 on a rate.
Yeah.
That's tough. Right? Like
it is.
That's tough to stomach, but then people live off of a budget of monthly payments. They don't live off of rates. So then it's like, maybe we pay off all this debt and it saves you $1,500 or $2,000 a month. It's crazy when they're paying off the debt. Then the move up sometimes is almost like free to them.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, I'm used to spending this much a month. My new monthly budget is going to be this much. And to them, it's like, oh my gosh, I get to go to a new house. And it's like my same lifestyle.
Yep.
Because I get to cash in on the massive equity position.
Again, it's just the consumer not being educated enough to put themselves in the right financial position. So again, whether they have $200,000 in equity, is it the best to throw all that $200,000 onto a down payment on their house? Well, maybe in some situations, but again, like you said, if they have debt in credit cards or car payments or all those other things that are at higher interest rates that they can offset those costs, it's probably better off to pay those things off, and you're at a 6% or 6.5% or whatever on your home loan, where you're paying 22% on a credit card. You're paying all these extra things where they're not thinking about the best ways to offset those costs. And again, working with, a great lender and a great real estate agent that can direct you to educate you about those things and a lot of consumers just don't know those questions to ask, or just don't ask them to anyone. And they're just like, oh, we're kind of stuck here. We might have this equity, but even if I put this all onto a house, this is what my monthly payment is. But you got to look at the whole aspect of all of it, rather than just what your monthly home loan is. It's like, okay, well, what are all the other loans that you have out that are monthly payments, and what's going to be the best to lower that monthly payment overall in your whole life?
So since it's spring 2024, right now, in certain price ranges, multiple offers kind of brutal. And I've seen between you and Chaz, you guys have been winning in multiple offers. What you're willing to share. Yeah, it's kind of like a secret recipe that you're seeing right now. And why are certain realtors winning multiples? And certain realtors, I swear, lose out. For some of my clients, I'm like, you couldn't win a multiple offer with this realtor if your life depended on it. But then the same consumer could go work with another realtor and they get an offer accepted right away.
Communication. Communication is by far the biggest thing that people lack on. I mean, for our listings, that is one of the biggest differences. It's like, okay, where do we need to be? It's asking these questions, asking that realtor, as much as we possibly can and as much as we can squeeze out of them to make our buyer in the best position, and, following up and just having that great communication where that agent wants to work with us. They're like, these guys are on top of their game. They're making sure that they're putting their buyer in the best position to win, and they're going to get us to the closing table. So that, I think, is the biggest difference, is that we're aggressive in our approach. We communicate very thoroughly and avidly for our client to make sure, okay, hey, like if we're off by this much, but we have this many terms, like give us a call. And we win a lot of those situations that we might not be the highest.
But they'll come back to you?
They come back because they want to work with us over work with, Joe Schmo, who might only sell 4 or 5 homes a year.
I've seen one thing for you guys that I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Where you're like, we'll give you an offer, and if you don't accept it by this time, we're taking it off the table and we're leaving.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've got offers accepted that way too. I mean, people that want to wait around that extra day, it's like, no, we're giving you 20 over right now, but they want to wait around. And if they want to wait around, we're like, well, we're pulling our offer off the table. You're not going to use our offer as leverage to try to get some other stuff. So putting the pressure on the consumer, getting emotions involved. It's an emotional process. And, we use every tool in our bag to make sure that, we're avidly working for our client to make sure that they're going to get the house. So whether we have to put the pressure on, and some clients are like, oh, are you sure we should do this? At the end of the day, it's up to you guys. This is what I think is going to work. And sure enough, the Kratskys, they submitted an offer. We were 20K over. The people wanted to wait an extra day. They were one of your clients as well. And I called the agent. Agent calls me back. We're going to wait until tomorrow. I call him. I'm like, we're taking our offer off the table, man. Blah, blah, blah. Sure enough, he's like, in an absolute panic. Absolute panic.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, hold on. Let me call my seller. Calls me back. No joke. 2 minutes later. I was up at Hazelwood, actually. Calls me back 2 minutes later and is like, Eric, all right, we're accepting it. So all of a sudden it changed from the next day at 7 p.m. to we got the deal done in 2 minutes.
Yeah. So I think that's like what you call having the balls to be an expert negotiator.
Yep.
Right? Like where a little secret for the consumers watching, most realtors aren't good negotiators. Actually, most realtors will over talk at times and lay the cards out, and they'll screw it up.
We'll talk about a lot of information with me, but when it comes to that other realtor, like, I'm pretty blunt about what we're going to do, especially if we're in the right situation. Obviously, in that situation, we thought it was going to go into multiple offers. We were very sure it was going to, but it was first day on the market, right? And it went on at like 4. We got in that situation and submitted our offer, and we said, hey, we want a deadline by 8 p.m. tonight. And they had the whole weekend left to be able to show it on Saturday and Sunday. And we were thinking, hey, it's going to get into big multiples. And I was like, let's just come in strong, put a time limit on it so we don't get all these other offers going in and raising our price. Let's just put our best foot forward now. And that's, again, the approach that a lot of people kind of wait around and dance around it until that one person jumps in. And then all of a sudden, once there's that one offer, and then we get 8 more offers that come in right after that first one, where if you can be that first offer in, be aggressive, knowing that, hey, this is a multiple offer type property. And again, having an agent who knows what properties are going to go quickly or go slower, there's different tactics to negotiate through that.
Yeah. So this is why in this new world, I think of buyer agency that's changing. We don't know exactly when, but there's going to be a change. Why buyer agency is so important. Because if that buyer would have went right to the seller would have said, we're going to wait.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then they could have paid exponentially more or never even got the property at all.
Yep.
But you were their advocate.
And that house, I think, appraised $20,000 over what we bought it for, too.
That's crazy. That's so awesome. And you sold their house in multiple offers.
Yep.
Yeah, so great job on that. Thank you very much for taking the time to hang out with me here today. I look forward to us to continue to grow our business. And you're one of the best realtors in the East Metro for sure. And I think for you, like the future, the sky's the limit, man. You're going to go to the moon.
I appreciate it, man. You've been a big tool for me starting my career. You've always been a big advocate for me and pushed me in many ways. I appreciate your professionalism, and you're a big reason why that keeps me motivated as well. So thank you for having me.
Cool. Thanks, bud.